Dear community members, Shabbat Shalom. Yesterday, we celebrated Yom Haatzmaut. Actually, the date of the Declaration of Independence is Hey B'Iyar, which will fall on this coming Shabbat. We're grateful for the state of Israel and proud of the state of Israel that the state listened to the rabbinate, and Yom Haatzmaut is always established in a day that will cause that there won't be any Chilul Shabbos. Consequently, we said Hallel yesterday, we celebrated yesterday, as the rabbi said that the day of Yom Haatzmaut should actually be the day that the state established as the celebration of this great miracle that Hashem did to us, even though it's not in the date of Hey B'Iyar, especially when it was done as a response to a religious request. So we celebrated Yom Haatzmaut yesterday. And yet still, this coming Shabbat will be a significant date, Hey B'Iyar, the day that Ben-Gurion and his partners declared the independence of Israel, and thus Hashem gave us this great opportunity for kibbutz galuyot and for having the ability to stand for ourselves and develop the state, Bezrat Hashem, which is an ongoing process, an ongoing task and job towards a moral Oved Hashem state. Parashat Hashavua, Parashat Tazria, Metzorah describes the tumah, the impureness of the Metzorah, but also describes his return after he has been isolated, after he has been in quarantine, his return to the society, to the healthy society, to the normal life, after he is purified from his tumah. Metzorah is compared to a dead person, like all the tumot that really stem from the most profound tumah, basic tumah, which is mavet, death. The aval also is closed in his home for the Shiva. He's detached from society. People are coming for Nichum Avelim, but he's closed in his home. He's not going out of his home. And after 7 days, the aval gradually, he or she returns to the normal life of the society. Am Yisrael also was in exile. In that sense, was in quarantine, was kicked out of his home. We had our togetherness with great communities in the exile. And yet still, it's not the same. Returning to full normal life, normal national life, that's when Hashem did this great miracle in Chesed and returned us here to Israel. What is Tzaraat coming for? So there are several sins that our sages are mentioning as the reason for Tzaraat. But two main ones that we also have figures in the Bible that got Tzaraat for are Lashon Hara and Gaiva, arrogance. If we look carefully, there's a close relationship between the two. It means it's coming from someone who didn't internalize his self-value and needs to cover for it with the Lashon Hara or with the arrogance, the Gaiva. Someone is telling Lashon Hara in order to elevate himself because he really deep inside feels weak. So he elevates himself when he speaks bad about another person, or he just wants to be liked, to be loved by the people who he's gossiping with. He has a problem with his own self-value. The same thing with arrogance. Someone who is comfortable with himself doesn't need to be arrogant. Someone who is comfortable with himself doesn't have to show up and blow up himself. If he's okay with himself, then he could be an anav. He's relaxed. I think this is the lesson that we have to learn from all the year that we've gone through. Just like Am Yisrael, just like the Metzorah, just like Lahavdil the Aval, We also, during this year, were in a certain form of quarantine, sometimes with real quarantine, some of us from time to time, and the others, with all the lockdowns, and definitely not regular involvement in normal life, normal social life. Chasdei Hashem, here in Israel, we're gradually returning to full life. This Yom Haatzmaut was amazing. We've heard now that from Sunday, we won't have to wear masks outdoors. Still be very, very careful. Please all be very careful to wear masks indoors. However, we're gradually returning to normal life. And I think that just like the Avo, just like the Metzorah, that they have to do cheshbon nefesh during the Shiva or during the quarantine for the Metzorah, and thus their return to normal society after learning the lessons will be much better. The same holds to us. We should get rid of our arrogance and of our tendency to speak Lashon Hara by understanding that there's no need to do so. You are who you are, and you don't need to elevate yourselves by this way. The state of it, on the national level also, the state of Israel, after 73 years, could feel comfortable with itself. Comfortable in the way, not to strive always to get higher, but there's no need for gaiva, for kochivot and yadi. We can acknowledge our dependency on Hashem, pray for his help to solve all of our internal and external crises, and with no need for gaiva, rather for anava. And when we now return to our normal social lives without masks, let's smile to each other. An authentic smile, not a smile that is coming from the need that another one will think good about us or whatever. With the masks, we were prevented from smiling. Now we understand how important it is to have regular, authentic, normal communication, as opposed to Lashon Hara, dafka communication that connects people one to other, that unites people one to the other. The smile, the authentic smile that makes the other person feel much better and make his day. Let's all do this. Shabbat Shalom and happy independence. Haatzmaut.